yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. I mean, yeah, I mean, God doesn't. I don't ever want people to feel like God is complicated. He's not complicated. He's not. If anything, like I said, people complicate God. You know, people think that they could just come to God and use Him for a stepping stone to get to get to where they want to go. You know, if I come to God, well, God will give me whatever I want. Or if I come to God, then you know, I'll never have any problems or anything like that. Well, um, it's not always the case. Because you have to understand, you live in a world where nobody likes God. Everybody wants to live for themselves. Everybody wants to live for their houses or their cars and stuff like that. You know, it's everybody wants. I'm not saying everyone. You know what I'm saying? Just in general, it's just a general mindset of society. We're all out to live for things that just end up passing away, things that just rust and you gotta throw away eventually. It's just the world we live in. So but this is a very temporary world. It is temporary. Very, very temporary. And if it's one thing that I've learned very, very, very quickly over the past, I don't know, few years or something, it's to not care what people think. I mean, obviously you don't want to be a jerk to people. It's not, you don't want to do it in a cocky, like narcissistic type of way, kind of like a Kanye West sort of way, where he's just like, kind of just doing it out of anger or whatever. I mean, it is what it is, but just who cares? I mean, people are gonna do what they do, man. Let people say what they say. Let people look at you. I mean, really, who cares, man? I mean, that is bondage right there. When you care what other people think of you, as long as you're not hurting anybody, or insulting anybody, or putting anybody in harm, then so what? You know, really, be free, man. Because you have to understand, like the world is filled. Like the reason people take shots at you for whatever reason is because, well, people are taking shots at them. And the analogy I always use is hurt people. Not so much an analogy, but you know what I'm trying to say. And it's the truth. Bullies are gonna be bullies. You don't necessarily have to be a 600-pound, 8'5" type of dude to be a bully either. Really, I mean, you could just sit there and just look at somebody and just, it is what it is. It's out there, and just let it go, man. Really. What's up, man? Just let it go. And sometimes, it's a process, and sometimes, you just got to go through some things and just be like, pfft. I mean, you can't get away with it. You can't get away from it. I mean, it's everywhere. And now, I mean, it's one thing if somebody, disrespect somebody you love or something like that. I mean, that's one thing. But I mean, always stick up. I mean, but when somebody like looks at me weird or whatever, hey man, like I said in my other video, I'll just pull that person aside and treat them like an adult and say, hey, I mean, do you have a problem? You'd be surprised how stupid people feel when you do that. You don't do it to try to make people feel stupid, but people really want to be tough until you just politely, you don't be aggressive about it, just politely pull them aside and say, do we have a problem? Is there something wrong that I've done? Give them a chance to speak, because maybe you did do something, and maybe they just don't have enough courage to really pull you aside like you're pulling them aside in a decent fashion and say, hey, what's up, So a lot of times in life you have to step up to the plate and do what they can't do for some reason, but somebody's got to do it. Otherwise, what are you left with? A bunch of passive aggressiveness and really. So give that person a chance to speak. If they don't got nothing to say, well, then it's on them, really. So it is what it is. So But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's basically, you know, all I have to say about God. Um, Stuff like that. Um, Hang out for a minute. All right, it's still going. Yeah, so I don't know. That's basically, you know, that's basically all I really have to say as far as that's concerned. Um, but I mean, this video was meant to just let people know I don't want to ever see anybody, because I really do believe that there could be more people in a relationship with God. I really think there's a lot of people every day that really want to turn to God and seek Him for His help, and they just don't really know how to approach God because people make it seem very, very complicated. So, you know, because of our nature in our, you know, like I use the term flesh to describe nature. When I say flesh, I mean nature, like our carnal mindset. Although, you know, carnal meaning worldly mindset. You know, we're grounded, we're down to earth, like people like to say. And I don't really mean down to earth in the sense, I mean being down to earth is cool. I mean, I guess, at least in the way I'm using it. But I think there could be a whole lot more people in a relationship with God, but because there's so much confusion out there, and because people, you know, try to make God seem to, you know, they want to make God out to be some kind of high maintenance, you know, father or something. Like, come on, man, you know. So it's, you know, definitely not like that, you know. See if there's anything else I want to talk about. I mean, I guess that's really it. I mean, that's kind of like what I was saying before, you know. Like I kind of came across as like a certain type of way when I said, well, I mean, when you mess with God's children, you mess with God. But I mean, it's true. But kind of like what I said earlier in this video, your burdens become His burdens. The people that, you know, have caused you pain in the past, let it go and wish them well. Pray for them. You're supposed to do that, and you should want to do that. If you really have, you know, you know, you definitely should want to do that. Because like I was saying yesterday when I read the what was it, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 or so, I don't even, 4 through 7, and then also verse number 1 too, and then I kind of linked that up with James 2:8, and I was kind of talking about religion on, you know, kind of like connect the dots there, and you know, you'll see what I'm saying. But I mean, God isn't going to sit there and, you know, talk about love. I mean, look, God is also wrath too. Like a lot of people forget about that. But His wrath has to do with sin, and that's how much God hates sin. Like, you want to know how much God hates sin? Take a look what happened on the cross. There you go. And, you know, like I said before, I mean, someone might say, well, how do you know Jesus is the only way? Well, because Jesus is the only one. It comes down to this. Do you think you're a sinner? Do you think sin exists in this world? Or do you think it's just an illusion? Do you think it's just, oh, it's just basically how you look at it? So if somebody's over here beating on a little kid, you don't think that's a sin? You don't think that, oh, I don't know, some people might think, come on, man. And those people are on drugs and they're delusional. So you think beating on a little kid or raping a woman or, you know, stuff like that is just acceptable and it's just a perception? Well, okay. If you think that, well, something is definitely not clicking, man. I mean, that's just, I don't know. There's such thing, you know, Jesus is the only one that came down and took your sins and said, here you go, I took them. Because it's too powerful for you to, you know, overcome on your own. Religion doesn't do that. None of it does. Not one. That's what makes it different. Now, if Jesus of the cross, Jesus of the Bible, was a religion and you had to run around and be a good boy or a good girl without his help and just give enough or do enough or, you know, say the right things and just pretend to be happy or just make the world a better place sort of thing, look, those are beautiful things. But that's just half the battle. And the thing about the enemy is, he only tells you half the truth. He gives you enough of the truth to just to convince you, and that's what I'm saying. Religion has most of the world convinced, and that's what I'm saying. You know, and it's so hard to break away from because it's just, how could you not? It's so carnal and it feeds us so well because we come from a world that is so broken, in a world that, you know, who loves me enough to die on the cross and to take my sins and say it's over, you know, there you go, just rest and I'll take care of you from here on out, you know, and obviously like have a relationship with me, obviously, but you know, you don't have to run around and do things. You know, I mean, you will want to do them, but you'll do them instead of out of obligation. You'll do them out of love and appreciation, and that's the difference. So, and like I said, sometimes it takes a long time to catch on to that. Depending on who you are and what your background is and where you come from. A lot of people come from a legalistic background. You know, I mean, like I said before, it's based on, you know, it's based on, you know, production. Were you a good student? If you didn't hit a certain point of, you know, if you didn't hit a certain grade point average, did your parents treat you any different? Did you feel loved when you were growing up? Did you feel like you were put on the spot for not being a good athlete or not smart enough or not good looking enough or, you know, whatever? It doesn't necessarily have to stem from your parents. It could stem from your friends or your brother or your sister or, you know, even just society. We live in a legalistic society, and that's why religion is so easy for us in a way. It just keeps us in bondage, but at the same time we think we're doing God a favor when we're really not. It's an illusion. So that's all I really have to say. I don't have to go on and on about it. It's been close to 40 minutes. Have a nice day.